What terrifies me is that what was peculiar, what was characteristic, what was the grounds that this extraordinary, stable Anglo-British state created was one where the individual mattered. We suppressed groups, we suppressed clans, we suppressed, of course, we were profoundly individualistic and fascinatingly divided society, along with other things that held us together, like clubs and trade unions and all sorts of things. But what we were not, we were not divided into clans. And the whole business of what happens in Scotland after the 45 is the deliberate destruction of clanism and its absorption instead into the British Army with the Highland regiments and all that sort of thing. The English state in particular, been profoundly aggressive. The reason that we are able to enjoy individual rights of justice, individual rights at law, is the destruction of clans. But what we've done, we've imported, I'm afraid, clans that many of the things that have created this outrage that you're talking about, the protests outside hotels and so on, they are in response to the grooming gangs. But the problem with the grooming gangs, they're not gangs, Brendan. They behave like gangs. They are clans. They're groups of relations. They're fathers, brothers, uncles, first cousins, second cousins, third cousins, because these are communities that practice cousin marriage, which is why, of course, they're called communities, which is why they've got their community leaders. And of course, what the British state has done is already, by its implicit acknowledgement of them, to begin the process of sectarianism that now largely symbolized either by the flying of the Pakistani flag, which has become very characteristic. You saw when it was Pakistani Independence Day, the complete takeover in certain parts of the country, or increasingly the use of the Palestinian flag. In other words, these so-called communities led the way in Ulsterization, in sectarianism. What we've seen, which was obviously on the cards, led by people like Tommy Robinson, as you would expect, is the beginning of the British response. The British working class are starting to behave in the same way. We're seeing the emergence of so-called community leaders within the British working class, exactly as happened in Northern Ireland. We've been taken over by these quasi-religious movements, and there are means of propagandization. The last time you had this happening was in the 16th and 17th century, when radical Protestantism came to England, and even worse, to Scotland. And again, there was a takeover by a tiny minority of highly educated people. And the vehicles for spreading it were exactly what they are now, with the universities and the educational system. And that's what's happened. And of course, these are utterly remote from the values of, if you like, ordinary people, which is why these educated elites, and you look every time there's a spat on Twitter, you see the sneers. The left, the believers in goodness, kindness, democracy, liberalism, have developed this rictus sneer, this sneer of contempt for the great unwashed. You saw the glimmers of it again, going back to flags. Emily Thornberry on the
Yeah.
white van man with
Yeah.
his flag. The Lady Nuji, of course, and absolutely entrenched member, a double member of this elite, and herself a lawyer, and she may even be a KC, an honorary KC, I can't remember, deeply frustrated that she wasn't made Labour Attorney General, married to a judge, chairman of a parliamentary committee, all of this stuff, right, with, of course, the hyper sneer. And it's all been brilliantly analysed by David Goodhart. The two species, the anywheres, the globalized liberal elites, the smoothies, the super educated smoothies, and the somewheres, the people at Epping, the people in Canary Wharf. And this is a division within ourselves, within Britain. Now, I find it fascinating. It's prefigured, of course, by some of our greatest literature. There's a book which I remember reading, I must have been 16, I suppose, when I first read 1984, and you thought of it as really rather good, but very far-fetched, wasn't it? And particularly, when 1984 dawns, there are all sorts of essays saying, "Oh, well, really, old Orwell." Remember, he was very ill when he wrote it. He died shortly afterwards. It was all very highly coloured, wasn't it? It was the experiences of the Spanish Civil War. Marvelous literature, but now, of course, we can see it as a prophecy, so astonishing, so complete. Even Brendan, and I keep pointing this fact out, a prophecy about the state of international relations, that the world has indeed dissolved back into those blocks that he talked about. Oceania, us, Eurasia, them, the South. Quite extraordinary, as well as what we are talking about, a politics of lies. Hence, that great essay at the end of great essay on language, on Newspeak, at the end of 1984. Or again, all this has got a very, very long pedigree. It goes back directly to Plato. Plato, again, believed in the rule of experts. And central to the Republic is a doctrine of lying. It is the noble lie. The noble lie, and Plato wants to believe that government should be the work of the expert, those marvelously intelligent and people without any self-interest at all, the philosopher king. And you've got to persuade people that everybody else is made of an inferior metal. They're the gold. The sort of warrior classes are the bronze. The rest of us are the mere iron. And you have that myth of a creation of essentially different species of human beings. So that idea of the lie is so powerfully entrenched. And interestingly enough, that word noble cropped up in one of the most memorable comments on all of this. And that was the historian, or he's really a novelist, but he's a jolly good popular historian, Tom Holland, who back in 2015, when there was the first wave of, thanks to the Times, the first real news about the grooming gangs broke. And Holland used this phrase noble. He said, that it was wrong, I suppose, rather unwillingly conceded, to suppress talk about the grooming gangs, but at least the aim was noble because of the values of multiculturalism. You see, it's this sense that the lies, well, they're really a good thing. Climate change matters supremely. Critical race theory matters supremely. Multiculturalism matters supremely. Therefore, we've got to, well, lie about them. And moreover, when people start complaining about the lies, if you like what's going on now, the British people, or an important section of them, they're behaving like the little boy in the Hans Andersen fairy story. They're crying out that the emperor's got no clothes. Well, I'm afraid you've got to shut them up, don't you? It's why suddenly we're seeing this whole movement to suppress what used to be the proudest claim of being Anglo-British. You were free. You read our literature from the late Middle Ages onwards, culminating, of course, in the 18th and the 19th century. That sense of pride in freedom, now suppressed, vanishing, deliberately sat upon.